But here's what happens with a lot of people. They start right here. Less sweat, less equity, right? This is their starting point. Because they're pretty much not doing anything. So they're not really doing anything, and they're not really making any money. Then they get this idea that they want to do something. It's like, oh, you can become a gazillionaire overnight, right? Or whatever the pitch is, right? So they're expecting it to be like this. Like out of the gate, they're going to go up. But then all of a sudden, what they have is this rude awakening, and that ain't where it's going, right? All of a sudden, there's a drop. They start working, and what happens is it's more sweat, less equity. And they're working, they're doing this thing, but they're not making any money. So they're not real happy about it. Now they're becoming a little bit disoriented. Right? Are you following me?
Yeah.
And we get down here to what we call the hang in here point, because this is the point where most people bail out. Because they're disoriented, they become despondent. They don't understand what the process looks like. How many in here have kids again? Right, okay, so imagine you're pregnant, you're 3 months into your pregnancy, ladies, and your husband comes to you and he's like, you got 1 more month. Or that's it, I'm out of here. Right? Like, how do you even respond to something as ridiculous as that? Right? Now, unless he's high and he's smoking or sniffing some stuff, he knows better than to say something like that, right? Because we know how long it takes to have a baby. How long, ladies? I know too long, but how long?
9.
How many months?
10.
Did somebody say 10?
40.
Listen, do I look like I had babies? All right. Now, if you have a baby in 4 months, that's considered a problem, right? It's not going to happen in 4 months. And the reason we wait with a great deal of anticipation and excitement is because we know the process and we can almost pinpoint it to the day, right? Right? Now, how many here have a garden or at least know about gardens? Right? You don't plant your seeds in the ground and come out the next day, and because you don't see what it is you planted, all of a sudden, this don't work. And you start digging up your seeds, getting all upset, do you? Yes or no?
No.
If you are, at least partially intelligent when it comes to a garden, you know there's a process, right? Yep. Even a chia pet takes a little bit of time, doesn't it? Right? I know it's quick with the chia pet, but it takes a little bit of time, right? There is a process. I know we live in a society where we want things instantly, we want it quickly, our microwave popcorn, but isn't there like a minute and a half where that thing is spinning and ain't nothing popping?
Yep. Right?
And you're waiting, right? You're waiting. You hear that one pop, here it comes, right? And they know that we're really bad with popcorn and microwaves. That's why they got that button called popcorn. Because people have been burning a whole lot of bags of popcorn. But I guarantee you, there's people out there with a microwave that has popcorn on it and they still burn popcorn. You know that's true, right? Because they think they know better than the microwave machine makers, right? But see, here's the thing. There's a disorientation. You're not disoriented when it comes to having babies or having a garden. But if you don't understand what the process looks like to succeed at whatever it is you've chosen to succeed at, you can be winning and not know it because you don't have the proper measurements, and you ultimately end up snatching defeat out of the jaws of victory. All because you're disoriented. There could be clear evidence that you're winning, but because you're totally disoriented, you end up losing when you didn't have to. Is everybody clear on that? And what happens is down here, you don't hang in, you bail out, and you start back up here, and you start repeating this cycle of starting and stopping, starting and stopping, starting and stopping. And this has a negative feedback into your self-esteem and your identity. Is everybody clear on that? So what we need to do is we need to make sure we move from the left side over here to the right side, because once we move from more sweat to less equity, we come to more sweat, more equity, and we're starting to see some of the results that we wanted. Right? The momentum is starting to swing. Right? And then once we get that momentum going, by the way, does it take more or less energy and fuel for the space shuttle to get off the launching pad? More or less? More. But the moment it's off, it has the momentum and no longer needs those rocket boosters, is able to release them, and is able to use this momentum to go in orbit and accomplish whatever the mission is. Is that true? Yes or no?
Yes.
It takes more energy when we start these things. All right, more energy to get out of the gate, more energy to get off the launching pad. But the moment we have that momentum, the momentum carries us, right? And then we find ourselves in that ideal spot where we want it to be, which is less sweat, more equity, right? But yeah, there may be this drawdown or drawback, but let me ask you a question. To jump your highest, you have to do what? Stoop your what? Lowest. Think about that. If you want to jump your highest, you stoop your lowest. Same thing. But if we have a proper perspective on what the process looks like, we know, hey, it's just a curve. It's like the learning curve. This right here is like the earning curve. Are you following me? It's the earning curve whenever you go into something new, because you don't know it, it's new. It's not difficult, it's new. And you're learning it. And as you learn it, you make these certain mistakes. Mistakes are a part of the learning process. So what I'm encouraging you to do here is to understand that in this thing, listen, I continue to make mistakes to this day. And by the way, if I were to share with you some of the mistakes I made, even after having made millions of dollars, you'll realize making more money does not make you smart. You will make a whole lot of mistakes. You get no immunity to challenges or making mistakes because you're now making 7 or 8 figures a year. It doesn't happen. What happens is your mistakes are more expensive. Multi-billion-dollar companies make hundreds of millions of dollars in mistakes. So if you can't stomach a few $1,000s in mistakes, you ain't ready for that type of oxygen. Are you following me? That's why life has its way of making sure we have the type of character and psychology at that next level, because life knows the challenges don't disappear, they intensify. You go from these, few penny mistakes to, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and millions of dollars in mistakes. And if you get weak at the knees over a few $1,000s, you ain't ready, baby. You ain't ready yet. Not yet. We have to strengthen ourselves. It's like when you walk into the gym for the first time, you're not looking to bench 300 pounds, are you? No. Not if you want your chest, you're not. Right? You won't go out of there in a stretch. You ain't going to try to bench press 300 pounds. Not your first day in. Right? So what we do is we graduate and we grow. Our muscles grow. Right? Our ability to deal with stress and friction and all this other kind of stuff, it grows as we continue to learn.